In today's video we're gonna be creating an advertisement for Apple. Specifically we're gonna be promoting the show called Severance, which is absolutely amazing and I binge watched it like crazy. So if you want to learn these minimalistic animations in the style of Apple, this video is for you. We're gonna be building everything from scratch and I'm gonna take you through the entire process. So let's bump up our skill and get straight into Adobe After Effects. Alright, so first of all I'm gonna show you the comp settings. 1920 by 1080, the name animation and duration around 10 seconds. Let's hit OK. I'm gonna right away grab the rounded rectangle tool and we're just gonna try to create such a shape. I'm gonna recenter and what I'm gonna do is turn off stroke and we're gonna turn on fill. I'm gonna change the red color to something grayish. Let's hit OK. And I'm gonna create a line that is gonna go across the shape. While holding shift, I'm gonna create another point and that way we got a straight line. But what we need to do is turn off fill and we need to turn on stroke. Alright, that's looking pretty nice. We can actually change the stroke width to 1.5. Let's call it line. And I'm gonna grab our logo. I prepared some assets which you can find in the description. So let's drop it on the timeline and it's extremely big. So we're just gonna scale it down and I'm gonna put it somewhere here and we're gonna create a keyframe for position. So in order to do that, we need to hit P and then hit the stopwatch. Let's move it forward and we're gonna grab it lower. I'm gonna select both, hit F9. We're gonna go to the graph editor. I'm gonna fit the graph and we just need to create a peak on the left. Right, perfect. Then I want to reveal that object. So for this, I'm gonna head over here. I'm gonna grab the rectangle tool and we're just gonna create such a shape. Then we're gonna turn off the stroke, turn on the fill, and let's call it cover. So now if we head over to the modes and we go to our logo and we change the track matte to our newly created cover, then it's gonna help us reveal the logo. But first what we need to do is just invert the matte. So look at that. Pretty nice. I'm just gonna grab that object over here a little bit lower. Alright, that's perfect. The next thing I'm gonna do is grab number 3 onto the timeline, which is this picture. Let's just scale it down a bit. We can actually create a pre-comp out of it. So I'm just gonna hit pre-compose, move all attributes into the new comp, and let's call it banner. I'm gonna hit enter and I'm gonna go into that comp. So what I would like to do here is head over to the rounded rectangle tool and we're just gonna create a shape on top of our picture. It doesn't matter what the color is, gray is fine. Then we're gonna do the same procedure, which is basically going to the track matte in our picture, the main picture, and changing it to shape layer 1. We can actually rename it to cover, so it's clear. And that way, as you can notice, everything that is within the shape is only visible. So here's our shape and that's what it does. We can obviously head over to shape properties and play around with the settings. For example, here, I'm gonna change the roundness a bit and you can notice how the corners have changed. Alright, next, I'm gonna create a keyframe for size. Then I'm gonna uncheck constraint proportions. I'm gonna go back to the very beginning and we're just gonna play around with X. I'm gonna actually change it to 0. So if we toggle transparency grid, you're gonna notice how it looks. Perfect. Now we need to add some graphs, actually one graph. So I'm gonna select both. Hit F9, go to the graph editor and same procedure, which is basically creating a peak on the left. We can toggle it again and now I'm gonna go back to our main animation. So now we need to position our banner on top of our frame. So for this I'm gonna scale it down and then put it somewhere here. Maybe let's make it a bit bigger. Seems good to me. I'm just gonna head over to our frame and I'm gonna adjust the roundness just like so. Looks a bit better to me. It's all about the details. So for this I'm gonna head over to the line and while holding shift I'm gonna click the right arrow key a couple of times. Alright, now it seems to be even. Then I'm gonna grab the type tool and we need the text over here. So for this I'm gonna type in Severance. I'm gonna turn on the caps, change the font to Montserrat. Let's pick something like semi-bold. I'm gonna recenter and while the text is selected, I'm gonna head over here and we're just gonna extend it even more. Then we can bump up the font size. Alright, looks pretty good. And also I'm gonna change the paragraph to the mid one. Now we can recenter again and let's put it somewhere here. Okay, I'm gonna trim that text to this position, somewhere here. Alright, so the next thing I want to do is reveal the text from behind the banner. So as you can notice in the track matte, if we change it to banner, and now make sure to turn on the visibility back on over here, then if we play around with the position, it's gonna be hidden. Just make sure the track matte is inverted. So from here you can use position keyframes or any text animation. I'm just gonna support myself with motion boost, which is gonna be motion boost smooth down. I'm just gonna hit U and I'm gonna adjust the timing a bit. All right, let's see now. That's really, really nice. As you can notice here, the letters are covered. Okay, let's adjust the timing even more. I'm gonna probably extend it for a longer movement. Nice. All right, so the next thing I'm gonna do is bring more assets onto the timeline. So for this, I'm gonna select 2, 4, and 5 and just drop it here. So now, as you can notice, they are kind of in a different size. So for this, I'm gonna try to make sure to just resize them properly. Okay, this one needs to be a bit bigger. We can actually lower it down. And what I'm gonna do is use the rounded rectangle tool, and we're just gonna create a shape on top of it. Make sure nothing is selected. So let's do it like that. All right, then I'm gonna trim it to this position, and I'm gonna duplicate it 2 more times. All right, so we got 3 of them. And what I'm gonna do is just play around with the track matte. So I'm gonna go to the first one, which is the 4th picture, and I'm just gonna change the track matte to shape layer 1. Then I'm gonna do the same for 2, but this time for shape layer 2, and in the 5th one for the shape layer 3. I just feel like we could play around with the roundness. I feel like it's too rounded, so I'm gonna just select them all. Now I'm gonna hold Control, select the rectangle in all of them, and change the roundness to 50, or maybe 60. And now what we need to do is create 3 pre-compositions. So for this, I'm gonna head over to 4. I'm gonna hold Control and select shape layer 1 and right click pre-compose. We can call it thumbnail 1. I'm gonna hit enter. Then we need to do the same procedure for these 2. Let's pre-compose. Let's rename to thumbnail 2. And as for the last ones, we're gonna do the same. So select 2, pre-compose, and rename to thumbnail 3. I'm gonna select all thumbnails, hit S, and we're just gonna decrease the scale. Now we need to put them somewhere here, maybe scale them down a bit more. And then this one is gonna go to the middle. Number 1 is gonna go here, and we can actually reorder them. All right, starts to look pretty cool. I'm gonna select them 3 and drag them like that. Maybe extend, just so we can see a bit more of the middle one. And now what we need to do is select them all. I'm gonna hit P, create a keyframe for position, and we need to slide them in onto the frame. So for this, I'm gonna drag them lower. Now let's select all, hit F9, go to the graph editor, and same thing, we're just creating a peak on the left. Perfect. Now what I want to do is offset them a bit. Let's see now. Okay, looks really nice. But the thing is that we need to have it within the frame. So for this, again, we're gonna use the track matte. I'm gonna select them all, and I'm gonna change the track matte to frame. And as you can notice, the frame disappeared. So for this, I'm gonna turn on the visibility, and look at that. Perfect. I just got a feeling like we could extend it a bit and also create a bigger space between the sliding effect. Nice. Maybe let's select them all and drag them a tad bit backwards. All right, this animation starts to look pretty cool. Now we need to spice it up a bit. So for this, I'm gonna head over to each of the thumbnails. Actually, we're gonna start with this one, and I'm gonna add drop shadow effect. Then what I'm gonna do is bump up the opacity to 100%. I'm gonna go to distance, change it to 0, and we're gonna change the softness to 150. And as you can notice, we got that nice separation over here. So before and after. We can copy the drop shadow effect and paste it into 2 other thumbnails. Great, we got more separation now, but also what we need to do is add light sweep effect. I think we're gonna start with the banner. So for this, I'm gonna add CC light sweep over here. I'm gonna hit enter, and let's just drag that point somewhere here, and we're just gonna play around with the settings. I'm gonna bump up the width. Let's definitely change the edge thickness to 1.5. I'm also gonna change the shape to smooth, and we're just gonna decrease the sweep intensity to 5. All right, so that's what we have. We can also add some dynamics to this. So for this, we can hit the stopwatch for center. Let's hit U, move it somewhere here. And now let's just make it pass by a bit. We can extend the keyframe to make the movement slower. Nice. Now I'm gonna hit Ctrl C for that effect. And let's head over to our logo, and we're gonna do the same here. Just make sure that the time indicator is in the beginning. And that's what we have here. And I feel like here we can make some adjustments. So for this, I'm gonna definitely change the sweep intensity to 0. Also, I'm gonna turn off the center. So I'm just gonna hit the stopwatch. I'm gonna bump up the edge thickness to 2.5, and we're just gonna increase the width. Maybe even 4 over here. Yeah, a bit better. Now I'm gonna select our light sweep, hit Ctrl C, and we're just gonna go to our thumbnails. I'm gonna select them all, and I'm gonna hit Ctrl V. As you can notice, we got this line over here now. Alright, let's see again. Looks really nice. I just feel like this text could be a bit higher, just like so. Alright, it seems like we're pretty much set here. So for this, I'm gonna select all the layers, and I'm gonna right click, go to pre-compose, and let's call it all. I'm gonna hit enter, and what I'm gonna do next is grab that logo onto the timeline. Again, we're gonna scale it down, and I'm just gonna actually pre-compose that layer. So I'm gonna right click, go to pre-compose, let's call it logo, I'm gonna hit enter, and now what I want to do is go into that pre-comp, and what we want to do is get rid of that frame. I just want to leave only the white area over here. So for this, I'm gonna use the effect called extract, and we're just gonna play around with the settings. So now if we bump up the black point, we're gonna notice that the frame is disappearing. Alright, perfect. I'm gonna go back and we're just gonna reorder it. So the logo is gonna be below our all pre-comp, and we can scale it down a bit. And we're just gonna create some movement. So for this, I'm gonna hit P. Let's create a keyframe for position. And we're just gonna slide it in from the left. Okay, nice. Let's definitely add the graph. So I'm gonna hit F9, and again, let's use peak on the left. It's very sharp. So for this, we could actually drag the left keyframe a bit more to the right. Nice, let's extend it. And then from this position, we need to create a new null object. I'm gonna parent the all layer to null. Then I'm gonna hit P for the null. I'm gonna create a keyframe. Let's move the time indicator forward, and we're just gonna drag it downwards. Now let's select both keyframes. I'm gonna hit F9. Let's go to the graph editor. And this time we want to create a peak in the middle, something like that. Okay, it's very sharp. Let's extend the keyframes. Still too sharp in my opinion, so I'm gonna go back and we're just gonna make sure that the peak is a bit softer. Let's see now. Pretty cool. Then what we want to do is head over to our logo, and I'm gonna hit P, create keyframe for position. Let's match it with that keyframe over here. By the way, if you hold shift, you can align the keyframes perfectly. Then actually, you know what? We need that keyframe over here. I'm gonna align the time indicator with that keyframe now. And now let's just drag our logo lower. So for this, I'm gonna drag the value to the right. I'm gonna select these two. I'm gonna hit F9, go to the graph editor, and let's just use pretty similar graph. Let's see. That's perfect. And by the way, the reason why I used null over here is just to overlap the keyframes. So here, the all layer is still moving, and that null object is helping us to start the second movement before this one is finishing. What I would probably do for this is just go to the opacity in our all layer, and we're just gonna drag it down. Let's say to 80%. That way we're gonna be able to see our logo over here. Also, as for the logo, I'm gonna add glow effect. So for this, I'm just gonna use deep glow. In case if you have that plugin, you can use this, or you can use regular glow. I'm gonna definitely change the radius to 1500, and I'm gonna change exposure to, let's say, 0.3. As you can notice, we got a problem over here. So for this, we can use grow bounce. I'm gonna put it above the deep glow, and we're just gonna increase the value. Also, I would like this logo to kind of be revealed. So for this, I'm gonna hit T, actually Shift T. I'm gonna hit the stopwatch. Let's move here, and we're gonna change it to 0%. So we have this nice fade in effect. One extra thing I would do here is create a new adjustment layer. And what I'm gonna do is rename it to Lumetri color. And also I'm gonna add this effect. And we're just gonna go to color wheels. I'm gonna drag it more towards the blue color. I'm gonna decrease the shadows. Already looks so much better. Let's go to basic, and maybe let's increase the exposure. I'm gonna go to all one more time. And in the first keyframe, I'll probably just start the movement very sharp. Yeah, much better. Alright, the only thing we're missing here is basically adding motion blur. So for this, we're gonna select these two layers, and I'm gonna turn it on. I'm gonna go into all. Let's turn it on everywhere here. I'm just thinking, is there any movement? Yes, in the banner. So here as well, and we're just gonna go back, and we should have a nice motion blur. Yeah, much smoother already. And just as a final touch, I would probably create a new adjustment layer. Let's add transform and we're gonna scale it up to say 110. I'm gonna alt click the stopwatch for position and let's type in wiggle and in brackets 1,10. Let's see now. Right, a bit extra movement. It kind of looks like the camera is shaking. A bit too much in my opinion. So what we could do is go to 0.3 and in the second value it's gonna be 5. Just a tiny movement, barely noticeable. The only thing I don't like is the fact that we can't really see that logo reveal over here. So for this, what we could do is basically delay it a bit. So I'm just gonna hit you over here. I'm just gonna drag these two keyframes forward and we should be good. And also for extra spice, what I'm thinking is going to line. I'm gonna open up properties. I'm gonna go to add trim paths. Let's open it up. I'm gonna hit the stopwatch for end. I'm gonna move backwards and let's just change it to 0%. Okay, so that's what we have now. Let's adjust the timing and also we can use F9 for this. Let's see how it looks in the entire animation. Nice. I kind of like when the line is going downwards and then the logo is going upwards. Probably it's not too symmetrical. As you can notice, there's more space. So for this, we can head over to all layer again and just do the final adjustment, which is selecting the logo. Make sure that the time indicator is on one of the keyframes. I'm gonna select them both. And now I'm just gonna drag it more towards the right. Attention to the details. All right, I like it. All right, so that'll be it for this episode. Here you have the final animation. Turned out pretty cool. And yeah, again, make sure to sign up for my email list. And with that being said, I'm gonna wrap it up here and I will see you in the next one. Cheers, guys.